Hello, alright, you're listening to the Gritty Bowman, home of gritty bow hunting films, interviews, tall tales, and a wee bit of manly boasting.
I'm South Cox, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
This week on Gritty Bowman, we talk about some of the camera gear we use to film our hunts and make our movies. We don't claim to be professional cameramen at Gritty Bowman. There are a lot of guys out there who know a lot more than we do about filmmaking, and that's great. But when I was getting into filmmaking, I had difficulty finding the resources I needed to step up my game. By the end of today's podcast, you'll have a clear understanding of the equipment we use, and we'll provide you with some useful links to training materials we've used, as well as links to the equipment we prefer. At the end of this podcast, I'll show you some footage that was taken with a Canon DSLR 70D, a Sony 4K camcorder, and a consumer-grade Sony Handycam and a Panasonic. You can compare the footage between the cameras for yourselves. All the footage will be raw and will not have any image correction done on them.
If you like this show, please go to our website at grittybowman.com and subscribe to this podcast and tell your mates and pals about us. Do us a favour and please take a moment to leave us a rating or a review on iTunes or on our YouTube channel. Send your questions and podcast ideas to grittybowman@gmail.com. If you're listening to this on iTunes, you can see the video version of this podcast on our website at www.grittybowman.com.
I'm Brian Call, and I'm your host. My little brother is my cameraman this week, and he's learning how to use a glide cam, so the video on this podcast is a bit shaky. But it provided my brother with a lot of practice, which is great for him, but not for you. Sorry. All right. So, my brother's behind the camera, so bear with him. He's running a glide cam for the first time. Thanks, brother. We're going to get into the camera real quick. This is my setup that I use to film almost all of my outdoor footage when I'm on the ground, when we're out chasing elk and we're in the mountains. This is what we're using. We're using this camera, body, lens, microphone, mixer, the whole thing. So I'll go, I'll just kind of talk about each piece and what I'm using. So I have a Canon 70D DSLR camera, and I'll get it off this monopod here and show it to you. So I chose the Canon 70D mostly because of its price point, and because this camera has a sweet touchscreen, and it allows me to film. It's really user-friendly, which I had never touched a DSLR until about 1 year ago when I went to the Full Draw Film School. And I really wanted something that was really user-friendly. And this camera had it. It's also really key. It's ideal for filmmaking. It's made for filmmaking, for video. It's got really cool focus features. So I can rack focus. I can have something in the bottom corner of the screen in focus, and then something at a further distance on the right corner of the screen. I can just touch that object in the corner, and it'll focus on that object. And I can just pick whatever I want within the frame to become in focus, and it'll focus on that. So that's a really neat feature to have on the camera. So it's $1,000, and I love it. So I recommend a DSLR camera for filming if you can afford it and to get into it. I've used camcorders, I've used GoPros, I've used other recording equipment, and you just can't get the same look you can get with a DSLR unless you're spending $8,000-$10,000. I just don't think, and even then, I don't think you're getting the same kind of image you get out of DSLR. And I like the rich, color and imagery that you get with a DSLR camera. It just can't be reproduced. The sensor on a DSLR camera is, like this big, and the sensor on your typical camcorder is this big. You just can't get the same kind of quality image out of it. the other thing that's great with a DSLR camera is all the lenses that you can put on it. So you can put on macro lenses for close-up shots. You can put on zoom lenses that can zoom in and out. You can get lenses with really wide apertures that allow you to get a really like a subject that's in focus real nice with the blurry focus in the background. So this is the sort of camera that filmmakers use. It's cinema quality video. It's hard to beat. So that's the camera. The other thing that that I have on here is a Rode NTG3 mic. It's a shotgun mic. I'm using this Rode right here. This Rode like a dead cat or muffler, or it's to keep the wind out. They're like $50 or $60. I think this one, maybe less. I can't remember. And it's sweet. I recorded something when I was out, and I didn't have a shotgun mic. I didn't have a dead cat or whatever you want to call it on there, and the sound was the wind just it was like this, and you couldn't hear anything the whole time. It's really distracting. That's wind on the mic right there. You can hear wind blowing outdoors. You can still hear the wind with this on there, but it's not the wind that you hear on a mic blowing on the mic. So, I mean, it captures beautiful sound. This microphone right here is almost, it's just like bulletproof. This one, I saw the guy when I looked at the reviews, they had this thing on YouTube. The guy sticks it over a stove of like top ramen, and he's like boiling it for like 10 or 15 minutes, and then after he does that, he sticks it in the freezer and freezes it, and then he brings it out and he plugs it in, and then records audio with it, and it sounds pretty good. And he put it inside a hot oven, heated it up, and then pulled it out and got it wet and within certain temperatures, and let it sit in the rain, and then record, and the thing just held up. So it's made for the outdoors, the NTG3. They have the NTG2, which is about half the price. I think this little baby right here is about $700. $700. And the NTG2 is a lot cheaper. I think it's like $250 or $300, somewhere in there, maybe half the price. But this microphone is totally, when you're making a film, the sound, the audio is just really critical. And a lot of people just kind of overlook the audio and kind of ignore it. And that's because it's a pain in the butt. It's a pain to get good audio. And one of the things I found is if you're filming with a DSLR camera, the onboard audio is garbage. You can't really use the audio from the camera. So then you're forced with like some kind of external microphone. Like this is a Zoom H1, some kind of microphone to record separate. And then you come home and you sync this audio with the audio on your camera, and then you use the audio from your separate recording device. Well, I ended up, buying a bunch of equipment, and then I had like it was like remote, and it took I used 4 batteries per day per 8 hours that I ran it. It was a nightmare. And so I was just trying to find out a solution for me with backpacking that I thought was just really simple to use and allowed me to get great audio, and where I didn't have to pack in a lot of batteries and stuff. So that's where I ended up buying this down here, which is the DXA SLR Pro by Beachtech. And I'll go ahead and take it off the camera here and let you take a look at it. But this is an audio mixer. It's really what it is. It takes audio from a microphone, mixes it, does all this voodoo magic to it, and then it goes from the mic down here into the mixer, and then out of the mixer and into the camera. and I'm able to get XLR quality audio and put it right into my camera. And the DSLR cameras just aren't built to capture audio, but with this device, you can turn this camera into something that captures pretty sweet audio. It's not as good as if I were to record it to a separate recording device, but I looked at the other recording devices and they're a pain in the rear to carry around. They take a lot. They can, at least for me, they used a lot of battery, and I didn't like that. This thing here is sweet. It takes a 9-volt battery. See, it says Beach Tech here. You got the 9-volt battery comes out. This thing will run this Rode mic for like 3 days. So I bring a couple of these, and they don't weigh anything. They don't weigh at all, these lithium batteries. I throw that thing in there. I bring like 2 or 3 with me on my week-long backpack trip, and I've got sweet audio the whole time. I mean, and then when I get home, the audio is already on the camera. It's already on there. I don't have to sync it when I get home. It's already there. And so what I use is I use these. This is a Zoom H1, and I use a lapel pin, a lavalier mic, basically. I turn this thing on. These are $100, and I put the lavalier mic on, and this thing on one AA battery. That's all it takes right here. I'll take this thing, and I will run my. I'll put this on a guy on my talent, my shooter, like Anthony Spencer or Ben Morris, Mark Brownlee. I'll throw this on there, put the mic on him, my dad, and I'll say, put this in your pocket. And they'll carry it around with them all day long, and it'll record from morning till dark. And it's got like a 64 gig SD card in it and 1 battery, and I can run it like that for like 3 days. So 3 or 4 days. So all I got to do is bring, and the memory card doesn't run out. I think it records 60 hours of audio or something. So all I do is bring like 2 AA's, and I'm golden. And I got individual talent audio on their lapel pins, and then I've got this onboard this audio which captures the sound of the bull screaming at us and whatever else is going on in the woods. So that's my setup. Going on, this is a battery grip, which just allows me to put right here. It allows me to put 2 batteries in the camera instead of 1. So you really got to have this. I mean, it just extends the battery life that much longer. You're filming an elk, you can't afford for the batteries to go dead. So the battery grips, though, I was a little depressed when I went to Canon to get a battery grip for the camera. It was like, I remember it was like $300 or something. But this little sucker I got on Amazon, and I think it was $70, and it came with 2 batteries and a charger for that. So I'll put this in the show notes. The batteries that you got with it weren't great. I mean, they're good. They work. They have about half the life of a Canon battery, but for $70, I got the grip, the battery, and some chargers. It's hard to beat, and so I'll put that in the show notes. So that's the other piece of equipment that I have. And then, last but not least, I've got this lens, okay? This lens is I use this for 80-90% of all of our film, all of our live footage. So if I'm filming an elk coming in, if I'm filming bulls screaming, pretty much everything, I just get beautiful images. This is what I'm filming blacktails with. It's just it's an incredible lens. This lens is a 70 to 200 millimeter lens, 2.8 aperture. Here it is right here, the Tamron. Tamron makes this lens. It's awesome. Make sure you get the right one. They have an old one that looks the same, but it's not. It's you want their newest version. This lens is, if you bought the Canon version, it's $2,500. If you buy the Tamron version, it's $1,400. So about $1,000 more for a Canon, and the image quality, the specs are almost identical, or they're different on some things, but they basically end up being a wash. They're both excellent lenses, but this one's $1,000 less. So this Beach Tech is about $400, and this Rode mic is about $700. And then the other lens that I use is this Canon Nifty 50, and you can see it's quite a bit smaller. It's a fixed aperture 50 millimeter lens. I use this for a lot of the B-roll that I take and like interview shots kind of stuff. And you put this on the camera, it's like it's like a whole new camera. I mean, it's so tiny. So this lens is $100. So for $1,000, you can get the camera body, and another $100, you get a 50 millimeter lens. The film that we put into the Full Draw Film Tour this year that we submitted, that'll be showing, that we're real excited about, we filmed almost exclusively with this camera and this lens, and then with very little skill. We're still learning how to use the cameras and so forth. So, but this allowed us to get a lot of B-roll footage, a lot of great artistic shots, just really capture the beauty of the country that we're in and the fun that we were having. So this lens is great. Then I use, in addition to this lens, this is what Anthony bought, is this setup right here with this and this. But the other lens that I use is this one, and it's one Brent is using on the camera that's filming this podcast right now. And this is the Sigma 1.4 aperture 30 millimeter lens. It's fixed focal length. It gives me a little more. This is 50 millimeters. So Brent's standing about 4 feet from me, maybe. And if he had this 50 millimeter lens on there, because he's using a 30 right now, if he had the 50 millimeter lens on there, he'd probably have to stand 7 feet away. So about double the distance. In order to get me in the same frame. So the 30 millimeter, I'd like to have one that goes down to like 18, but for now, the 30 millimeter has been working the last year, and it's great lens, and it's about $400, I think, $400 or $500. But it's a little bit wider aperture, 1.4, which gets me a little more light coming into my shots, low light morning and night shots. Plus, it gives me a little more bokeh, which allows me to have a little more, some attractive shots. So I like the 30 millimeter. I think it's pretty ideal. So I'll use the 30 millimeter, and I'll use this beast right here for mostly everything. And then I have a doubler that I put on here, which changes this from a 70 to 200 millimeter lens to a 140 to 400 millimeter lens. And so it gives me that extra reach. Now I do lose some f-stops on my aperture, but not much. It's at 2.8, so I still am getting plenty of light into the shot, and with that doubler on there, I can film something that's about 200 millimeters out, or 200 yards out, and get a pretty, get it in the frame, get an elk-sized animal into the frame that looks pretty decent. It's not a super close-up shot, and I could crop it when I get home on my computer software, but I'll lose some quality. I actually, for us, because we're bow hunting, using the Canon 50 millimeter or the Sigma 30 millimeter lens for all of our B-roll, all of our stuff where we're just hanging out in camp, all of that kind of stuff, it's perfect. Time lapses, stuff like that, we've got that. Then we use this for calling in elk, and when they're within 100 yards, I have just got from 100 yards on down, I have some killer imagery. And then even a little further than that, I can do that. Throw the doubler on, and I'm getting 200 yards out of it. And then anything beyond that, if we want really great footage of it, we're digiscoping. We just can't afford the lenses that go up beyond this. In fact, it's not just that, their weight. We're backpack hunting, and so to get a lens that maintains a good aperture but goes out 600 millimeters is like, it's thousands and thousands of dollars to buy something like that. And it's like this big around, and it's like a Hubble telescope, and I don't want to pack that around. So for us, we have this set up, and then for long distance shots, we're plugging our Canon onto like a Vortex digiscoping adapter, and we just pop that sucker onto the end of our I'm drawing a blank here, spotting scope. There we go. We just put the Canon onto the spotting scope, and we film through the spotting scope, and we get great images at long distances. So anything long distance, digiscope, and then everything else is 70 to 200 millimeter and 30 millimeter and 50 millimeter, short range lenses. So that is that. The other thing, and I don't think I went over this, was I use a monopod for almost all of it as I'm walking through the woods. I mean, I don't have time to set up a tripod. I can get pretty steady shots with practice. I can get very steady shots with this out to 200 millimeters. If I throw the doubler on there, I even get decent shots with that as well on this monopod. And I can stabilize it in post-production if I need to. But this is pretty good out to that range. If it's a little shaky, then I'll throw it on a tripod. But usually I just use this monopod. I like the Benro monopod better than the Manfrotto. The reason for that is this little monopod has a little clip here. So the Manfrotto, if you want to pan it, you twist the whole stick, and it pivots at the base. But sometimes I want to hold it steady here and just pivot at the top. So I feel like I have a little more control so I just undo this knob, and then this thing will turn up here, which the Manfrotto doesn't. You have to turn the whole stick. And I just feel like I can get a little more control when I've got a 18 or a 30 millimeter lens on there, and I'm filming like a little horny toad walking across our cooler or something. I can get a really neat shot, right off this monopod, real quick, real steady. I think it might have been cheaper too. I can't remember than the Manfrotto, but I like this one. It's a great little monopod. So then I use a glide cam, which my brother has, and that's kind of when we're backpacking. It's just not feasible to be packing in a slider. Which is sliders, like a rail, and I do have one of those for some really nice artistic shots. Really good. It's cool. I love using a slider for filmmaking. It just is wonderful. It's a cool tool, but packing in, I just don't want to carry it, especially the places we're going when it's straight up, straight down country, and it's a long way. So the glide cam is great because you can mimic a lot of those kind of floating shots, like you're sliding on a rail, or you can do like a crane shot coming down, or you can follow a guy going up a hill and really capture some really neat angles without packing in a big slider or a crane or anything like that. So it's kind of a really neat tool for getting good shots with motion. So that's everything I'm going to go over today. There's a lot of equipment that's out there that other guys use. This certainly isn't the best of the best. This is just kind of what we use, what we found works for us. We found that when you're buying gear, when you're buying this equipment, a lot of the batteries, the memory cards, that sort of stuff, the supplies, the adapters like this battery grip, you can get these off the sort of the knockoff versions for so much less than the name brand, and it works just as good. from my experience. One of the things, I'll put a link into the show notes for this memory card. This memory card is sweet. It's 64 gigs by SCT, and it's $20 or so on Amazon. And I don't know what other guys have found, but I've shopped, and what I found for memory cards for cameras for 64 gig, it's like over $100. So certainly more than 20. So that's a sweet deal on Amazon. I've been waiting for that price to go up because it's been that way for like 9 months, and the price is still holding. But I've got like 10 of these suckers, $20 each. I just don't want to run out of. I've got 3 different cameras. They're going to different places. These cards are. They don't work on every camera. So if you don't have a Canon 70D, I don't know if it'll work on your camera, but it's awesome for the 70D. The reviews talk about which cameras it works on and which cameras it doesn't work, and I think that's why they're so cheap, is because it just depends on. It doesn't work on every camera. This card only works on some, and but it does work on the 70D. So that's it. There's lots more to talk about, lot more camera gear we could go over, but if you have questions, go ahead and ask us. Hit us up in the comment section of our YouTube channel. You can email us, grittybowman@gmail.com. You can connect with us on Facebook, all that stuff. So if you like the podcast, leave us a review. We appreciate that. A 5-star review would be nice. Let's see. I think that's it. Check out our website for other films and other things that we're doing. We have a lot of content that we have captured over the years that we're trying to get out there to share. We're hoping you guys are enjoying it and you're liking that. We have a lot of cool guests coming up here in the near future on the podcast, so we're excited to share those. But I hope this little gear talk about camera gear helps you. And if you've got questions, let us know. And stay gritty.
Second tree, would you come up? He's right at the tip of the tree, or whatever it is, but he's big. He's not moving. He can't. He stood. They're running.
They're running to the around the.
Yeah, down to the left.
Yeah.
He's chasing cows. He's getting them out of there. He seemed a little pissed off that some of them weren't coming.
Yeah, you noticed
They
that?
were just hanging out up there like, we're not ready to leave yet. And he's like, get your butt moving.
It's time to go.
Dang 5-point bull stayed here. How's the spot going?